There are moments in every long-running television star's life when they finally get to be free. Free from the demands of the show, free from the scrutiny of the cameras, free from the version of themselves the audience expects them to be. For Matt Roloff, that moment came in the winter of 2024 and 2025. Little People, Big World had officially been canceled by TLC after 25 seasons. The show that had defined his adult life for nearly 2 decades was over. He was, for the first time since 2006, not filming a season. He was not adhering to a production schedule. He was not being asked to reveal his life to a network. He was, in short, free. And Matt did what a lot of people would do with that kind of sudden freedom. He went to the beach. Not just any beach, the British Virgin Islands. Warm water, white sand, long days of doing nothing. And, importantly, no barbers. Tonight on LPBW Update, we are walking through Matt Roloff's post-show Caribbean vacation era in late 2024 and early 2025. The trip itself, the dramatic new look that fans compared to Rod Stewart, the Instagram return that stunned his followers, the philosophical shift that seemed to accompany the physical transformation, and how this beach era, in retrospect, seems to have foreshadowed the July 2025 breakup with Caryn Chandler that would end their 8-year relationship. Because everything about Matt's Rod Stewart era was pointing toward change, and within months of returning to Oregon with his new look, Matt would announce the biggest change of all. Let us start with the context. In late 2024, TLC officially confirmed what had been rumored for months. Little People, Big World was not being renewed. The show that had aired continuously since March 4, 2006 was over. 25 seasons, approximately 400 episodes, nearly 2 decades of Roloff family life documented, edited, and broadcast to America. All of it done. Matt had, in interviews leading up to the cancellation, expressed some ambivalence about the show ending. He had said he felt secure in what he had put on air. He had said the idea of not doing any more TV at all sounded fine by him. He had said 400 episodes was enough. But when the cancellation actually happened, it was a significant moment. Matt was no longer required to be a reality television star. He could just be Matt. He and Caryn had, according to reports, been managing the family through the pumpkin season of 2024 and dealing with the various stresses of the ending show. By the time pumpkin season wrapped up in late October, Matt was reportedly exhausted. He needed a break. He needed to get away from Oregon. He needed to get away from the responsibilities of the farm, the family drama, the media coverage of the show ending, and everything else that had been piled on top of him for years. He jetted off to the British Virgin Islands. The British Virgin Islands are a British territory in the Caribbean, made up of over 60 islands and keys. They are famous for their pristine beaches, their sailing culture, their tropical climate, and their status as a luxury travel destination. Matt had, presumably, chosen the location for its combination of accessibility from Oregon, its climate, and its distance from Oregon's expected media attention. He would be far enough away that he could relax without being constantly recognized. He would be in a place that offered enough amenities to be comfortable, but not so glamorous that his presence would create a media event. Matt spent weeks in the British Virgin Islands. His Instagram account during that period was mostly silent. Fans who had been used to Matt posting frequently were suddenly encountering an account that had gone quiet. For approximately 2 months, Matt did not post substantially on Instagram. That silence was itself unusual. Fans began to wonder what he was doing, where he was, whether he was okay. Then, in January of 2025, Matt made his return. He posted a photo of himself relaxing on a beach in the British Virgin Islands. He was smiling, he was clearly relaxed, and he looked different, dramatically different. His hair, which had always been kept relatively short throughout his years on Little People, Big World, had grown out significantly. It was longer than fans had ever seen it. It had a wild, laid-back quality. He had a scruff of beard that added to the overall vibe. He looked, in short, like someone completely free of the constraints of his previous television life. His caption read simply, "Lovin' my best life, ha!" The Instagram post generated an immediate reaction from fans. They loved the new look. They laughed at the transformation. They celebrated Matt for embracing his freedom. And they compared him, in various comments, to British rock star Rod Stewart. One follower commented, "See a little Rod Stewart in this pic. LOL, enjoy Matt." Another wrote, "Dang, Matt, looks like you've turned hippie on us. Good for you, my friend. Far out, man. Grooving, boss. Bitchin'. Enjoy your life." The tone of the comments was almost universally positive. Fans understood instinctively what Matt was doing. He was decompressing. He was exploring what his identity would look like without the show constraining it. He was letting his physical appearance reflect the internal shift he was going through. The Rod Stewart comparison was fitting in some ways. Rod Stewart is famous for his shaggy blonde hair, his casual style, his party-hard reputation, and his ability to embody a certain kind of aging rock star cool. Matt, at 63, was inhabiting a similar aesthetic. He was showing that older men could still be cool, still be relaxed, still be enjoying themselves. He was not trying to look younger. He was letting himself look his age, but with a specific kind of free-spirited energy that had not been present in his earlier public persona. The transformation was not just visual, it was philosophical. Matt was communicating through his hair and his caption that he had entered a new chapter of his life. The wife of the moment, Caryn Chandler, was not featured in these Instagram posts from the British Virgin Islands. Whether she was with Matt on the trip is not fully clear. Some reports suggested she was there for part of the vacation. Other reports suggested Matt spent significant time alone. What is certain is that Matt's beach content did not feature Caryn prominently in the way earlier vacation content had. That absence was noticed by some observers. Matt was, in early 2025, in the middle of what would turn out to be the final months of his relationship with Caryn. The photos from the Caribbean, retrospectively, seem to show a man who was already spiritually exiting the relationship, even if the formal announcement had not yet come. The specific timing of the trip and the return is worth pausing on. Matt was in the Caribbean during November and December of 2024. He returned to Instagram in January of 2025. That means his Rod Stewart era began at the end of one year and continued into the next. The transition from 2024 to 2025 was a significant marker for him. The show had ended in 2024. His new life was beginning in 2025. The visual transformation was the first outward expression of that transition. Everything else, including the eventual breakup with Caryn 6 months later, would flow from the internal transformation that the beach vacation had catalyzed. Matt's Instagram content in the weeks after returning from the Caribbean continued to reflect his new energy. He posted more about farm operations. He posted more about his own personal reflections. He posted less about the family dramas that had defined his earlier content. He seemed lighter. He seemed more at peace with himself. Whatever had happened during those 2 months in the British Virgin Islands had genuinely changed something in him. He was operating from a different psychological place than he had been operating from during the final seasons of the show. The engagement to Caryn Chandler, meanwhile, was quietly deteriorating during this same period. As we have discussed in other videos, sources close to the situation would later say that Caryn had spent months trying to save the relationship during the first half of 2025. That means she was trying to save the relationship at exactly the same time Matt was returning from his Caribbean freedom and adjusting to a new life without the show. The two were, spiritually, moving in opposite directions. Caryn was trying to hold on. Matt was letting go, not just of the show, of everything that had been holding him back from being the version of himself he wanted to be in his 60s. By March or April of 2025, Matt had cut his hair back to a more conventional style. The Rod Stewart era, visually, was over, but the psychological era it had represented had continued. Matt was still lighter, more relaxed, more himself than he had been in years. That version of Matt was the one who would, on July 22, 2025, announce the breakup with Caryn. The Rod Stewart era of the British Virgin Islands had been the precursor. It had been the first sign that Matt was ready to make big changes in his life. The breakup was the final consequence of the internal shift that had begun on that Caribbean beach. What can we learn from Matt Roloff's British Virgin Islands era? A few things. First, that reality television stars need real breaks after long-running shows. Matt had been on television for 18 years. That is longer than most Americans stay in a single job. The mental and emotional toll of that kind of sustained public exposure is real. Matt needed his Caribbean escape not just as a vacation, but as a genuine reset. Every long-running television star probably needs something similar when their show ends. Matt showed one way it can look. Second, that external transformations often reflect internal ones. Matt's hair was not just longer. His whole demeanor had shifted. The Rod Stewart era was a visual metaphor for a real psychological change. And third, that big life changes often come in clusters. Matt's Caribbean vacation, his physical transformation, his return to Oregon, and his eventual breakup with Caryn all happened within a 6-month window. Once he had made the internal shift, everything else began to reorganize around it. Looking at Matt Roloff in 2026, 1 year after his Caribbean beach photo went viral, he is single. He is more at peace with his family than he has been in years. He is still running Roloff Farms operations, though the farm is on the market. He is still active on Instagram. He is still connected to his 4 adult children and 8 grandchildren. And he still sometimes seems to carry the energy of the man on that Caribbean beach in early 2025. The lightness, the freedom, the willingness to embrace his own life on his own terms. The Rod Stewart era ended, in a visual sense, when Matt got his hair cut. But in a deeper sense, it never ended. It became quietly the new baseline of who Matt Roloff has been in his mid-60s. So I want to know what you think. Did you love Matt Roloff's longer hair beach era? Or do you prefer his classic look? Do you think the Caribbean vacation was a healthy break from decades of reality television? Or do you think it was the beginning of the end for his relationship with Caryn? And do you think Matt will ever grow his hair out again for another Rod Stewart era moment?